Now, when we originally looked at this in Unit 4, we had this same slide up. So we looked at it in two parts, in standard form, and then also what happens if it's in slope-intercept form. If it's slope-intercept form, we don't really need to worry about step 4, but the rest of the steps will be true. So when we come to graph our equation, if we have a greater than or a less than, so notice no equal signs on here, then when we come to draw the line, we either draw a broken line or a dotted line, whichever word you prefer. If there is an equal sign on this, then when it comes to drawing the inequality, we're actually going to use a solid line to draw the line on our graph. Now, when it comes to shading, we have a couple of choices. If it is greater than or equal to, then we're going to shade above the line. If it is less than or equal to, we're going to shade below the line. One little trick I use for remembering that, less than is like lower, and lower would suggest that you're going below. So they start with the same letter there to help. Now, if we're doing graphing in standard form, if we have a negative y, we actually do the opposite of step 3. So if it was something like x take away y is greater than, as it was negative y, instead of going greater than, you'd actually go less than. We're not going to worry about that too much for right now, because we're going to focus really on what happens if you're in slope-intercept. So if we're doing this in slope-intercept form, first of all, we're going to ignore the inequality, we're just going to pretend this is equal to. So negative 2 means we're going to start at negative 2. 3, we're going to write as 3 over 1. So we're going to go up 3, across 1, up 3, across 1, and so on. Now the first difference comes in. Normally we just go ahead and draw this in straight away. This time with the inequality we actually have to check what type of line we're going to use. Now as there's no equal sign, the rule says that we're going to go ahead and draw a broken line. So let me quickly change between those two. And we draw in our line, like so. Now the next part says greater than, so if we go back to the original rule, if it is greater than or equal to, we're going to shade above the line. So here's the line, I'm going to shade above the line, so I'm going to go up. So in other words, everything above this line here. And you don't necessarily have to colour in the whole thing, but it's just so you can see exactly which side of the line we're actually looking at. If we go to the second question, we've got x plus 2 here, so we know we're going to start at 2. There's no number here, so we know this must be 1x. Then we're going to make it into a fraction, so 1 over 1. So we're going to go up 1 across 1, up 1 across 1, up 1 across 1, up 1 across 1. Less than or equal to. So if it's less than or equal to, then we're going to draw a solid line. So let's go ahead and draw that in. And one other thing, less than or equal to, we go back to the rules. If it's less than or equal to, we're going to shade below the line. So for this question, we're going to go below the line. So if we take a point on the line and go lower than that, this is the side that we're shading. So in other words, everything over this side, like you can see there. And that's how you graph an inequality in slope-intercept form. Now we also have graphs in standard form. And one way we can do this is we can just simply rearrange this equation, so to make it say y. So if we add 2x to both sides, then this would cancel, and we'd get 3y is greater than 6 plus 2x. Be careful not to put 8 there, those aren't like terms. We can say positive 2x plus 6. And then to get rid of the 3, we're just going to divide both sides by 3. So the 3's cancel, and we end up with y is greater than 2/3 of x. 2/3 doesn't simplify, however 6 over 3 does, that's 2. So actually what our question becomes here is y is greater than 2/3 x plus 2. That's also good practice for our rearranging, which is an important skill too. So when we come to draw this one then, same as we did in the previous part, we're going to go to 2 on the y-axis, slope of 2/3, so up 2 across 3, up 2 across 3. And then when it comes to joining this up, this is greater than. So as there's no equal sign on this, we're going to go ahead and draw a broken line. So let me just choose my broken line and go ahead and draw that in. Now it also says greater than, and it says if positive y for greater than, we're going to shade above the line. So here's the line, we're going to go above the line, so we're looking everything up here then, in other words. Now for our other one, we can do the same thing. We can rearrange this one. And this one we've got to be extra careful. We've got positive 3x. So I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. So that cancels. We get negative 6y is greater than negative 3x plus 12. Now we're going to divide by -6. We're going to divide everything by -6. And this is the part you've got to be super careful of. When you're working with inequalities, if you multiply or divide by a negative number, you need to switch the inequality or flip the inequality. So instead of being greater than, this actually becomes less than now, or strictly less than or equal to. 3/6 simplifies as a fraction, that's 1/2. And 2 negatives make it positive. And 12 divided by -6 is -2. So I'm going to go ahead and put subtract 2. So we go ahead and change our question to make it into slope intercept form. And then we can go ahead and start to graph this. So, first of all, we know the y-intercept is -2, so let's go down there. The slope is a half, so 1 up, 2 across, rise over run, rise 1 up to 2, rise 1 across 2, and so on. And when we come to graph this, we have the equal sign here, which tells us this is going to be a solid line. And it says less than, which means we're going to go below the line when we shade. So below the line is this direction. So we need to shade all of that part there. So graphing in standard form, change it to slope intercept form, and then use the rule like we did earlier. Our special cases. So y=3, we talked about this earlier, the y-axis goes this way, but y=3 is actually a horizontal line going through 3. Notice no equal sign here, so we need a dotted line going through 3. Greater than means we're going to shade above the line. So in other words, that part there. Now for x less than or equal to 3, x equals lines are vertical lines. There is an equal sign here, so we need a solid line. So we're going to go vertical through 3 on the x-axis. I just missed it a little bit, so let me try and drag that across. There we go, that's a little bit better. Now this time, less than normally means below the line. That's kind of difficult to do because this is a vertical line. So for x equals, all we're going to do is we're just going to shade the line on the side of this arrow. So this says shade to the left of this line. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to shade all of this over this side. So that's how we're going to graph our inequalities if they're vertical or horizontal lines.